All right, so this here is gonna be a heater video. In this entire video, there's a ton of information, and the whole idea or premise behind this video is essentially teaching you how to use context profiles to automate a lot of your copywriting tasks, whether it be putting together entire landing pages, scripting entire VSLs, emails, whatever it may be for the offer you're running, product you're selling. This entire video here is gonna cover pretty much that entire process, how to create context profiles, for everything. I'm going to explain what context profiles are, what they do, why to use them specifically compared to regular plain text, like detailed outlines, all that stuff. And then I'm going to get into the different ways you could create them. I'm going to show a live demo of me creating it, the different types of softwares you could use for everything specifically, and then an example at the end of how you could apply it for selling an offer over email, for example. So this is just kind of a full A to Z guide on using JSON context profiles to put together copy. And just as a quick preface for this video, I initially was exposed to this topic by some guy named EP on Twitter. So I want to give a quick shout out to him. I'm going to link him in the description here on this video, so you could go check him out. He has a very cool like community course thing. It's called AI Frontrunners. He teaches a bunch of different cutting edge stuff. So if you want to be kind of in the loop on all that stuff and that stuff's interests you, I'm going to link him first thing I think here in the description on this video, so you could check him out. And yeah, he drops a lot of game. Go follow him on Twitter. And I don't know if he's the one, he's definitely not the one who like exactly came up with this concept, but he definitely popularized it on Twitter and kind of like started a trend. So this video here is going to essentially be, or essentially explain context engineering and how to use it for copywriting. So without further ado, let's just get right, let me actually disable this really quick because this makes it very loud, but let's just get right into the beginning here. So leveraging AI to automate all of your copy. So you could be like this robot right here. I don't even know what he's doing or why he's drinking coffee, but he's sitting on the computer and he's typing. So this is pretty much what this video is going to allow you to do. So you could use this for emails, landing pages, YouTube scripts, VSL, short form scripts, or whatever you want. The point is you could do this for anything. So now you might be sitting there thinking like, hey, this sounds great, but like, how do you exactly go about doing this? And the short answer, like I covered in the beginning, is JSON context profiles. So what the hell is a JSON context profile? So essentially, the whole premise of this is a JSON context profile is basically a structured blueprint written in plain text that tells an AI how to think, write, or speak in a specific way. So instead of giving the AI vague instructions like sound professional, you could store clear details inside a JSON file. So things like tone, so you could perfectly match someone's tonality in the way they speak. You could perfectly mimic someone's rhythm in the way they speak, their vocabulary, style, examples, and rules. And this profile works essentially like a guidebook that AI can always reference so your copywriting stays consistent and true to the exact voice or brand that you want to mimic, whether it's your own or you're kind of like writing for someone else essentially. And literally, you could just kind of see in this image here, they sauced in an image. They said generate a brand JSON for this web page, extract things like title, description, etc., as well as the tone of voice, narrative structure, etc. Blah blah blah. So the AI will go through, kind of like look at the website. They linked it here, so it's going to browse the web, and then it's also going to analyze the different kind of color structures, colorways. So you could also use these profiles for generating images. But like I said, this video is here is specifically about copywriting. So if you're a creator, you are kind of like running up your own offer, you have to like write these specific things for yourself, then this is going to be very helpful for you, and it's going to automate a lot of things, and then you won't have to hire a copywriter. Essentially, you're going to be able to do a lot of the things that a really good copywriter would normally do. Obviously, you're still going to have to change a few things. AI is never perfect. It's always going to make mistakes, but as you can see, kind of back on subject, it is extracting all of the information from this site here in the form of a JSON context profile. This is kind of how it looks like. It looks like code. It's not necessarily code. It's just kind of a structure that is very easy for an AI tool to essentially understand and interpret. And it's easier than plain text. So like I was mentioning before, you could technically just be like, hey, spit out like a detailed like outline of everything, and then it would just write it in plain text. But if you give it instructions in this specific format, from my personal understanding, it is a lot easier for the AI to interpret what you exactly want, and it will be a lot more detailed. It will be a lot more detailed and specific to what you want. So just better tailored. Okay, so now we have a basic understanding of what these profiles are and how they work. So where do we specifically go from here? So let's just get right into explaining how to actually use them to create solid copy, since that's what everyone's here for essentially. And just as a quick little preface, I do want to preface that getpoppy.ai, or Poppy, a lot of people just call it Poppy straight up, essentially functions exactly like this and has these profiles built and managed automatically on the back end. So the way Poppy works, if any of you have seen it before, it's essentially a kind of like a visual, kind of like mind map software where you sauce in a bunch of different videos. You could sauce in PDFs, whatever you want. You could just sauce everything in. And it's essentially kind of like a visual mind map where you're interconnecting things, connecting it to a chat interface, stuff like that. You can just go check it out yourself if you don't know what I'm talking about. But essentially it will do the same exact thing where it is referencing all the context from everything and building these context profiles on the back end. So it's doing all the stuff I'm covering in this video. But so if you're willing to pay whatever their subscription price is, you can effectively just automate a lot of this just by paying for that software. However, if you want to just do this for free and want like more control over the entire process, you want to see what's in the profiles, make sure it's more customizable, then make sure to just stick around for the remainder of this video because I'm going to be covering exactly how to do that. And yeah, finish that one here. So we were going to kind of dive into exactly what to create these like context profiles for, how to work them, and then use them to inject context into the AI tools that you are essentially using. So you could create very high tier copy via context engineering. So you could create a context profile for the way someone speaks in their YouTube videos by just grabbing the transcripts, or any social media platform for that matter. So that's one kind of like use case. This is actually kind of annoying me right here. Let me fix this. There we go. And then you could create a context profile for your specific ICP for the offer you're running or the product you're selling. You could create a context profile for the common objections your customer has. You could create a context profile for your offer or the product and everything it includes. The main idea is you could create a profile on anything. So just by supplying enough context to AI and telling it essentially to build a context profile around it, you could build one around your offer. You could build one around the common objections that come up and that your customers have. So this could be included in the copy. You could create a context profile for your specific ICP. So they could be very clearly defined. And so AI could perfectly interpret who your ICP is, the way they think, all that stuff. And all of these different things could be injected as context whenever you're making copy for whatever reason. So I'm going to get into that a little bit later on. But yeah, this is like a couple different ideas of stuff you could create it for. But the only limit here, I guess, is your creativity. You could create it for whatever you want and then start mixing, matching things and injecting it however you want. So now the real magic here is that once you create all of these context profiles, you could store them in a Google Doc or anywhere you want for that matter, and literally reuse them anytime you have to put together any sort of copy. So hence this beautiful recycling logo that I put right here. And what you're essentially doing is injecting these profiles into whatever AI tool you prefer to use every single time you're creating a piece of copy, and immediately your output quality is 10x of what you would usually get with a vague prompt. Or for example, let me just elaborate here. So ChatGPT has a memory feature, but it doesn't function exactly like I am kind of like describing in this video. It is a little bit different. It is not the same as what I'm describing in this video, and it's vague. It kind of almost pieces together a summary of stuff that you spoke about it with it in the past, but as you've probably experienced like with your own specific experiences with ChatGPT, Claude, whatever AI tool you're using, it is never, or ChatGPT specifically has the memory feature, but it is never super high quality. It's just kind of like vaguely pieces it together, and you need to prompt it a lot, go back and forth a lot to get the output quality that you want. However, when you create these profiles and they are set in stone and everything is good with them, you're able to inject them into, you could go to a whole new large language model that you've never used before. For example, if you never used Claude before, you could go to Claude, inject all these profiles, and it knows nothing about you, and it will pretty much understand 90% of what you're saying, and the output quality will be immediately way better. So the back and forth time with you and the large language model will go down significantly, and then your output is going to be way, way, way better here. So the idea is you basically have given AI a map and a direction of what your output quality should look like. So it's a lot easier for it to piece it together. And the technical term for this, I believe, is context engineering, and your quality will be a lot better. And if anything ever changes in your product or your offer or the customer you're targeting, whatever it may be, you could literally just go back and explain to AI, have a conversation with it, send in a voice note, exactly what has changed, and update your context profile. So you could just always kind of like go back and forth, update these quickly, so you could reuse them and then create all the materials that you need to create. So now, how the hell do you actually go about creating these context profiles that you are going to be using? So we're going to cover this one here first, but the first one is you could literally just record an audio of you translating everything you know about the specific product or offer, customer objections, customer profile, whatever it may be, to AI, and tell it to create a reusable JSON context. And I forgot to put the word profile in here, so we're going to put that in right now. Reusable JSON context profile. But yeah, you could literally explain to it, have a conversation with it, exactly everything you know, try to translate all the knowledge from your brain into the large language model, tell it to create this context profile, and then boom, you have a reusable structure. You could essentially just copy and paste, put into any chat window you're kind of speaking with AI with, and it's immediately going to understand what you're talking about. And the other one that I wanted to mention here is you could just paste in transcripts and or download audios and videos and send them into Google AI Studio, which is the software I prefer using for this, essentially, because their context window is ridiculous. It's 1 million tokens. Literally 99% of you watching this video are never going to hit 1 million tokens. I've hit it a few times only because I've had so much back and forth conversations with some of the copy for some of the offers that I personally run right now. And even like a software newsletter, like I'm kind of like affiliated with them, just kind of help them run the entire newsletter. And yeah, moral of the story, I put together a bunch of different newsletters there. And the context profiles and the conversations went kind of crazy. So I hit the 1 million limit on that one specifically, but this one is the best. You could download videos, send them in. You could download MP4 files, send them in here. Google AI Studio is just the best at this. And the best thing is it's totally free as well. You would just go in and talk to their state-of-the-art models right away. From my understanding, I do have a pro account, but from my understanding, it is free. It is free if you don't have a pro account as well. So you could use this. But an important caveat when creating a JSON context profile of the specific way someone speaks, and you are later going to reuse this like for specific written copy. So essentially what I'm saying here is if you are creating a context profile of the way someone speaks, like for example, if you went to this video here and you copied and pasted the transcript of the way I'm speaking in this video here, and then you're essentially copy and pasting that transcript and putting it into ChatGPT and telling it to create a context profile of the way I speak, it's going to pick up a lot of the weird sentence structures or odd kind of like quirks and patterns that a person has when they are speaking. So what you want to do is essentially, let's see if I should cover that first. Yeah, so what you want to do essentially is you want to instruct AI to kind of very carefully analyze all of the sentence structures the person uses when speaking or overused phrases that they, for example, use when they are speaking into a camera. Because everyone has these quirks, everyone like overuses certain phrases, it's just weird. And when you tell, or if you just gave it the raw transcript and said, hey, create a JSON context profile, it will go and create it, but it will oftentimes kind of like note down and put into the structure that like, oh, like this person uses this phrase a lot, so we're gonna have this in here. And then when you're using that context profile to, for example, make some kind of written copy, whether it be like an email or whether it be just some kind of a blog, I don't even know, like whatever it may be, anything that's written, it will oftentimes reuse these weird kind of quirks and phrases that a person uses when they are essentially speaking. And the last thing you want is, for example, the context profile to say like, oh, here we go, this person says and ah a lot when they talk, so we're going to include this in the actual written copy. So you have to make sure it is not kind of like honing in on these specific weird, odd patterns that a person has when they're speaking, and you have to specifically instruct to AI to detect these weird patterns and exclude them from the profile. So this is a very important caveat. This is a mistake I made early on. It's very easy to kind of catch on to when you start like using them and kind of like reading through some of the copy it's producing, but this is just to help you out so you don't make this mistake like as soon as you start doing this. And yeah, the last thing you need is for written copy to include the word So yeah, that's a quick caveat there. Here I was going to do a live demo, but before I do the live demo, just kind of showing exactly how to create these profiles, exactly how to use them for specific things, I am going to cover this specific software here. This is a free software I found. This software is honestly pretty bad. I don't even know how I found it, but I think I wanted to specifically kind of download or find a way to get transcripts of reels off of Instagram. So here you could just go to a reel, for example, you're on your computer, copy and paste the URL, put it into Snap Insta, And then in here, you are able to essentially download the entire video as an MP4 file, because initially I thought Instagram would have this feature where you could download it. Apparently not. So you could just use this software here, download it, and then take that downloaded like MP4 file, whatever it may be, sauce it into Google AI Studio, and then Google AI Studio, you just prompt it, be like, hey, pull out the transcripts from all of these videos here, and then you should be all set. So this is, for example, very important if you're in the short form space. You create a lot of short form content and you want to create context profiles to help you script your short form content. And for example, let's say you wanted to create a context profile of the specific way that you speak in your, or the specific sentence structures that you use, the different kinds of hook structures you use within your short form scripts. This is very important for these types of creators essentially, and it's going to streamline your workflow a lot. So I thought I would just quickly mention this software here. I'm sure some of you guys know better ones and stuff like that. So let me know in the comments below if you know any better ones, because this one is pretty clapped, but I like, whenever I get used to a new software, I will just stick to it and then just use it. So this is a good one, just in case some of you guys don't exactly like know what to do. So let's see, did I miss anything? No, I didn't miss anything. So now we are going to get into the live demo. All right, so here we go. Just pulled up an example. This is, she's super popular on Instagram, I guess, Shelby Sapp. She has a sales program, which is majorly targeted towards women. But I guess I'm gonna take some of her most recent videos here. So these 4 videos, we're gonna create a context profile of the way she speaks, and then we're gonna make one of her ICP, so the type of person that these videos is attracting, and then we're gonna create like a mini little context profile on her specific offer, what she's actually offering to these people, and then we're gonna go and put together a few different emails based on all of that there. All right, so first let's go to this video here 2 months ago. What you wanna do on YouTube specifically is you want to go to show transcript here, and then in the transcript you want to copy and paste all of it. So we're gonna go down like this. Let's see, it's taking forever. All right, there we go. All right, now we got that going. Now we're gonna go in here, copy and paste this in. Now we could just quickly go back, and then now we could go here. Now we could go here, copy and paste this specific one. Oh, this one here doesn't have a transcript. Great. Great. We're gonna go to this one here. As you can see, these are live and raw, bro. There's no editing in these. I'm just kind of going with the flow. So I guess we're not gonna do all 4 videos. It's gonna be those 3 videos. Here we go. We got this transcript. Now let's go to her most recent video here. Okay, boom. We got the 3rd video. So now we have all of these transcripts here. So now we're gonna go ahead and create these context profiles, get them going. We're gonna mix and match them, and then create all of these emails that I could show you, because emails are the simplest example. And with these copy context profiles, one thing I want you to keep in mind is you could always put in copywriting superstructure. So whether you're writing an email and you want to use a Problem-Agitate-Solution framework, whether you want to use like whatever framework you want to use, or if there's a specific type of like landing page structure that you like to use, you could give that as a superstructure and also inject all the context profiles, and it will all be built kind of like around that specifically. So that is super important to understand as well. Something I forgot to actually mention in my Miro board. But now we're gonna go ahead and actually kind of create this specific voice profile here. So I'm gonna say, go through all of these video transcripts here and create a JSON context profile, which essentially models the way she speaks in these videos. And then, like I told you before, now we're going to incorporate the caveat where we're going to see if there's any types of weird patterns or phrases she overuses when she speaks, so we don't include that in the actual written copy. So go through, or sorry, as you're going through all of these videos here, pay attention to any patterns / phrases and or sentence structures and words. Now we're all over the place. Whenever I'm prompting, I forget how to speak English, but basically, and words she might overuse, and that would make it essentially weird for her to use these when actually putting together written copy for her. Okay, so that's there. JSON context profile models the way she speaks in her video. The goal of this JSON context profile is for you to make an extremely detailed outline that I can reuse to essentially inject as context into any LLM, to essentially inject as context into any LLM, so we can basically write copy in the same phraseology she speaks in. Jesus Christ, I can't type. All right, anyways, now we are going to send that in, and it's going to create it, and yeah. All right, so boom, we went through the 3 initial YouTube videos, copied and pasted them all in here, and now we have this very, very detailed JSON context profile, which has pretty much everything, and all of these, pretty much everything you need to write copy is in here. And I apologize in advance. Google AI Studio is super buggy. That's one thing I hate about it. I really love using it, but it's just so laggy sometimes, it gets really annoying. So essentially, one thing I like doing after making this initial context profile here is I like to say, go back through all of the context you have in the transcripts I have provided here, and really ensure you add more detail to this so we can perfectly mimic her voice. Also make sure we're excluding any overused phrases, sentence structures, words, quirks, etc. that she says way too much when speaking. So this stuff here isn't in the written copy. Boom, now we're gonna run that, and I'm gonna get back to you when this is done. Okay, now this initial run through where we added more detail is complete. As you can see, a lot more advanced, a lot more detail in here. So now we're gonna get to creating the next context profile, which is going to be essentially go through all of these transcripts once again and interpret who her ICP would be. Really think through what type of an audience these types of videos would be attracting. Make sure to consider the fact that she is a girl and 95% of her audience or more is going to be women, but really think through the type of woman she would attract. Make sure this JSON context profile is very detailed. Make sure this JSON context profile is very detailed and contains everything. Let's see. And is very specific. Boom. That should perfectly understand what we're going for now. And I'm gonna get back to you when this is done once again. All right, so now we have the specific context profile of her ICP. We're gonna perfectly understand who she's targeting. Now the last one is to essentially understand her offer. I'm not gonna go super in depth with this. I am just going to copy and paste this page here. So Command A, Command C. We're gonna go in here, copy and paste this in. And then I'm also gonna tell Gemini to reference all of the context that it could get from the video transcripts. And From there, we're going to be able to essentially kind of create a JSON context profile of a rough idea of her offer. If you are actually kind of running up this offer, or this was your offer, include way more detail than this, but just for the sake of this video, we're just going to keep it like this. So go through the landing page text above, and also go back through all of the videos I have sent and create a very detailed JSON context profile of everything you understand about her offer, so we are able to write about it properly when making copy. Okay, that should pretty much be it. So I'm going to send this in and get back to you when it's done. Okay, boom. So now we have the entire context profile of her specific offer. So now what I'm going to go through is I'm going to go back through this entire chat log, copy and paste all the profiles we've made so far essentially, and then essentially put them down here below into this chat window. And then we're going to create a variety of different emails with, I'm just going to create 2 different emails with 2 different copywriting superstructures. And then we're just going to kind of go through them and look at the quality of output of these specifically. All right, so boom, we have the 3 context profiles pasted here above, and then I just kind of put together this prompt here. I did not want to put you guys through the dread of sitting here watching me essentially writing this, so I put it all together. But essentially I said you have her voice context profile, ICP context profile, and the context profile of her offer. Let's create 2 different emails, one following the PAS framework, one following the ADA framework, and all of these essentially should reference all of the context in these profiles and primarily draw from there. Where did I leave off there? Let's see. Yeah, primarily be drawing context from there specifically, and to make sure to not overuse specific phraseology that she overuses when actually speaking to a camera. Make sure there's a max of 2 sentences per paragraph in these emails. So now we're getting to the part where like it's kind of like nitty gritty, kind of like how I like them and stuff like that. Make sure you oscillate between short and punchy sentences where it makes sense. And wherever you need to expand and explain on something more deeply, oscillate to longer sentences. Make sure the subject line and preview text really captivate the audience's attention and create an open loop inside of their mind, which really makes them want to click on the email and get the answer to the open loop, blah, blah, blah. Make sure the preview text does not close the loop that we create or does not close the loop that we open in the subject line. And then no M dashes, no semicolons. I hate when there's semicolons in emails. I really don't like it. I don't like M dashes. I know sometimes it's like grammatically correct to include semicolons, whatever. I don't really care. And then M dashes is just a hallmark sign that someone is using AI nowadays. So if you are going to use AI to create actual written content, this is a pet peeve of mine. I hate people who leave the M dashes in and think like no one notices. Just prompt it. Gemini is way better at removing M dashes than ChatGPT. ChatGPT will still sometimes include them. However, it is kind of getting better. So I don't know what kind of like engineering reason they have for why it sucks at it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So this is the entire prompt. I'm going to send it in, and then we're going to kind of go through and review some of these emails hereafter. All right, so perfect. Now we have the specific email, so we're going to go through them. As you can see, the first one here, the PAS framework one. The subject line is that 3 p.m. feeling at your job. It's not just boredom, it's a warning. Hey, you know that feeling of watching the clock, knowing every tick is worth just a few dollars. It's a quiet frustration of your best, most vibrant energy for a paycheck that barely moves the needle. That feeling in your intuition telling you that your potential is being capped. It's the realization that if nothing changes, the life you see other girls living, the one with freedom, fulfillment, and flow, will remain a fantasy on your phone screen. But what if you could disconnect your income from the clock entirely? What if you could build a life where your earnings are a direct reflection of your skill, not your schedule? This is the power of mastering remote high-ticket sales. It's the #1 high-income skill for women right now because it acts as a direct vessel to financial freedom, allowing you to create the life you want from anywhere. This isn't some vague theory, it's a tangible game plan, blah, blah, blah. You could see the entire thing perfectly structured, exactly the way she speaks. I'm hosting a live interactive training session this Tuesday where I'll show you exactly how to get started in the industry. We'll cover mindset shifts and actionable steps you need to take back control. This is your moment to stop trading your time for money. Click below to save your spot. Watch now. So this is pushing, I guess, to a webinar that she's running. So this is more of a salesy email, but you could see how the usage of these context profiles and my really trash prompt. So I put in like a pretty trash prompt, literally 1 paragraph instructing it to do a few vague things. But as you can see, this is better than what 95% of copywriters that are out there selling services will try to sell you. This is really good. And I know for a fact that this would especially work, especially since a lot of her audience is indeed organic, like off of Instagram, and then now she's pushing on YouTube and stuff. So this would 100% work. And then you could just make a few tweaks, like read through it, change a few things. But yeah, now we're gonna get into email 2, the AIDA framework: attention, interest, desire, action. Subject line: the real currency isn't money. It's something you're giving away for free. So as you can see, big open loop creates an open loop inside the prospect. They don't know exactly what they are going to get in the email, so they click through it, and it starts with, hey, I want you to picture your ideal Tuesday morning. There's no frantic alarm, no stressful commute, just a Pilates class followed by a matcha in your own beautiful space. And that was hard for me to say, but whatever. This isn't a fantasy reserved for influencers. It's the reality for women who have cracked the code on a skill that allows them to build their work around their life, not the other way around. That skill is remote high-ticket sales. It empowers you to earn a single commission, what most people make in a week or more, freeing you to live a life that actually feels like your own. This is where true freedom is born. It's the ability to book a first-class flight just to experience it. It's the quiet confidence of knowing you could handle anything because you are the one who built this life for yourself. It is the embodiment of that powerful hot girl energy that comes from being in complete control of your future. I want to show you how this is not only possible, but closer than you think, blah, blah, blah. And then it pushes to the CTA for the webinar. As you can see, both these emails are pretty fire. Few small changes to them, they would be literally ready to go out. And what I did was very basic. I literally only put in three YouTube videos. And if you are trying to run your own offer, trying to run it for someone else's offer, you're obviously gonna have a lot more context about them. You could put in a bunch of different stuff about your life story. You could have a ton of different stuff in your context profile, and this stuff could be much more accurate. And it's pretty much eventually, if you give it enough context and you give it just even a slightly decent prompt, you're going to get really high quality output. So what I'm essentially trying to drill into your head is that all of this revolves around giving AI the proper context. If you give it enough context, it will give you high quality output, and there's no need for like any crazy prompt engineering or anything like that. Just give it what it needs, and then you're gonna get output like this. All right, so boom, back in the Miro board. This here is kind of unnecessary. I had this in my initial Miro board. Don't need to cover that because we already kind of covered that in the specific. We were just working in Google AI Studio, putting together those emails and stuff like that. But this was the example I was going to give. You could inject a bunch of context profiles, give it some direction, tell it what you're trying to sell, and then it will know exactly what to do, and it will push people there. And when AI has all of these, the output is literally 1,000,000 times better, as you were able to see there, and you're able to achieve an insane quality of output, plus bonus points if you give it specific copywriting frameworks like we did specifically there. So now you just use your imagination and go out there and apply this knowledge to everything you're doing, whether it's creating scripts for this, emails for that, writing this landing page. You would just go, sit down once, give it everything you know, kind of speak off the top of your dome, give it context, send in voice notes, put in all of your transcripts, download videos, send it in, create all these profiles, and this will automate a lot of your work in the future, and you're going to be able to create very high quality scripts or any types of writing or anything like that. So that's going to be it for this video. I kind of went through the entire structure from kind of teaching you what a JSON context profile is to the specific types of use cases for it, how you could recycle it to create certain types of content, and then we went through the 2 different ways to actually create them. And then I went through the whole live demo of me creating emails for Shelby Sapp. I literally just thought of that off the top of my head. I think I saw it somewhere on Instagram, but that's besides the point. But yeah, this video was my biggest video yet. I covered everything here. Hopefully this was valuable to some of you, and hopefully a lot of you are going to see how powerful AI is and how you could actually begin to implement this into your workflow when you're writing anything, putting together any kind of copy. And yeah, this should prove to you that having a good copywriter, it's useful for specific high-level stuff, but for the most part, using this and following this specific video here is going to give you way better results than most people that are out there selling copywriting as a service. So that is going to be it for this specific Miro board here. And if you're a creator and you are specifically thinking about selling your own info product offer to your audience, you could check out my About Me page and book in a call with me on Calendly specifically. because essentially what I do, I am the operator. Me and my partner kind of operate the entire back end of these specific types of offers. So if you don't want to go through learning all this stuff, figuring out how all of this stuff works, managing it on a day-to-day basis, you could book in a call there with me specifically. I will hop on with you, just kind of assess the situation. I'll just kind of go in on my own time, figure out if I could help you, if it's going to be a good fit, stuff like that. And then we could essentially go from there. But yeah, that's going to be it for this entire video. If you are a creator and you want help, go check out that Calendly link. But that's pretty much going to wrap up this entire video here.